Good afternoon. My name is David Talbot. I'm Managing Director and Head of Research here at Red Cloud Securities, and I'm delighted to host a Red Cloud webinar on gold today. We are going to hear from Aurion Resources Management, including Chairman David Lotan and CEO Matti Talika. Now, during today's webinar, they will provide an overview and outlook, and then we will take some questions. You can type your questions into the chat box at any time, and we'll get to as many as we can. But before we kick things off, first we need to discuss the fine print. During our conversation with Aurion, forward-looking statements may be made. I would direct listeners to its forward-looking statements outlined on page 2 of Aurion's corporate presentation, and that's found on the website aurionresources.com. For Red Cloud Securities, I'd highlight this webinar is for information purposes only. It should not be considered a solicitation or recommendation to buy or sell securities. We note this call does not consider the particular situation or needs of individual investors, and participants should rely on their own investigation and seek their own professional advice before investing. So please see our most recent research located on the Red Cloud website for specific disclosures on Aurion. Now, with that introduction, I'm going to turn it over to David and Matti to speak about Aurion. Take it away, guys.
Thanks so much, David. And thanks all of you for finding time to attend today. So Aurion is a gold discovery company working in Finland. You can see those beautiful northern lights. They're not photoshopped. That is a photograph of our ongoing drilling program with B2 Gold on our Helmi discovery. And it's a beautiful place to work with great infrastructure and really wonderful Northern Ontario conditions. We have partnerships with or investments from 3 major producers, partnered with B2 Gold on our Helmi discovery, a strategic investment from Kinross for 9.9, and Newmont as a holdover from Goldcorp's purchase of 5% of us in the open market. Next slide, please. So about 130 million shares outstanding. We ended the year as predicted with about 12 million of working capital. Since then, we did a small raise at about 6.7 million. So that gets us well into 2024. Share register looks much as it always has, with management as the largest shareholder at around 13%. Kinross at 9.9, Newmont around 2.5, Eric Sprott, Ross Beatty, and a lot of great institutional investors, including Conway, Arbim, Franklin Templeton, and Adrian Day. I'm the largest shareholder of the company. I think most of you know me already. Volunteer chairman, no stock options, no compensation, and probably have put in $3.5 million or so in the last 2 years, all through the open market. And that's just to emphasize that we're running the company for shareholders, looking for an intelligent exit at the right price and in the right time frame. Next slide, please. We're working in an area very much like the Abitibi. That's why we put this picture of the old Timmins Dome discovery here. We think we're on the front end of it. The large fragments of gold-rich quartz that we discovered in the second growth forest just off of a logging road here in 2016 are very reminiscent of that discovery. That is Amarusco. It did take a couple of years to find it in drilling, but you can see that beautiful wire gold wrapped around the core there. It was a 3 meters of 800-gram discovery hole, and that discovery is in hibernation at the moment while we work other prospects. But many, many good things have happened for the company in between, and bad things, I'm afraid. And so we're here where we are today, working multiple opportunities, and I think probably as a stock, an opportunity. Next slide, please. Lapland looks a lot like the Abitibi or the Norsemen in Australia. Mining was in the hands of Udo Campo right up until 1995. They were only interested in base metals. If this greenstone belt was in a more mature gold production or exploration environment, you'd have probably a smooth histogram of discoveries like you see in the Abitibi or the Norsemen. But all we have here is the largest gold mine in Europe. And that's Kittilä, 8 million ounces in all categories, a super profitable, super modern, beautiful mine for Agnico, and then just a couple of other dinky mines there. But discoveries are happening quickly. One reason we think that a lot of the Canadian explorers missed this opportunity is that it's at 67 degrees latitude. And during the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, the Arctic gold mines in Canada were under exploration and development. And while there was lots of gold up there at Amaroq and Meliadine and Meadowbank, and of course, most recently at Back River for Sabina, they're very, very challenging environments in which to construct a mine, primarily because of permafrost, which just wreaks havoc on all your civil engineering. I think the Agnico mines in the Arctic might end up with a 2% IRR. This is the same latitude, but thanks to the Gulf Stream, it's 20 degrees warmer here at the mid in January, the coldest month. And so we fly commercial to Helsinki and then to Rovaniemi, drive on paved roads, all-weather roads all the way to within 8 kilometers of the discovery. And the property that holds our initial discovery, Amorusko, is blitzed with these high-quality logging roads. So it really is, I suppose, very much like discovering major gold deposits 20 kilometers from downtown Oakville or something like that. The town that we work out of, Sadankala, is 10,000 people. Many of the people in Sadankala work either at Kevitsa or at Kittilä, and there's great infrastructure, great roads, and it's really an extraordinary situation. It's not just gold that's being discovered here. I think possibly the best nickel copper PGE discovery of the last 20 years. If I've excluded Voisey's Bay from those decades, Sakatti, discovered by Anglo first in 2004, and I think confirmed as a major discovery in 2009, is one of the most interesting deposits on Earth right now. It's been quietly moved forward because it is in an environmentally sensitive area, so the permitting is taking quite some time. Last reported at about 44 million tons of 2% copper, 1% nickel, 2 grams PGEs, and maybe half a gram of gold. It's apparently much better and much bigger than that now, but we won't know until they get through their environmental permit. It's so rich that they're going to drift in from kilometers away, and we're eager to see that get into public domain. Why do we talk about a nickel copper PGE deposit? Well, that means there was probably a crustal scale breach and a lot of primitive fluids circulating through the area, and I think that that's undeniable now. Agnico's 8 million ounce Kittilä mine is only 30 kilometers away. The beautiful Ikkari discovery by Rupert is only about 10 kilometers away. Our Amorusko discovery is in between, and our emerging Karasulka discovery is in about the same spatial arrangement. So this is a really, really interesting area. It's opening up in a very rapid period of time, or a very compressed period of time, I should say. And it's still, I think, other than Rupert, on sale. Next slide, please. This is what it looked like when we got here. Just a few stray red dots for exploration opportunities, a couple of bankrupt mines, Pattavera and Kutavoma. Actually, Maddie, maybe you'll back up one slide and I'll just talk about the Circa Shear Zone for a moment. I shouldn't have missed discussing the length and breadth of our land position here. That jagged black line is the Circa Shear Zone, and we think it looks a lot like the Destra Porcupine Break or the Cadillac Larder Lake Break. Gold had been discovered in 40 different places along it by the Geological Survey or by Udo Campo, and never followed up. When Kittilä was confirmed as a major gold mine, a lot of the staking under the old system was along these north-south structures, and this east-west structure was left almost entirely orphaned. Our founder, Mike Basha, thought that was a huge mistake, and he managed to tie up 80 kilometers of this 125-kilometer long crustal scale fault, modeled to 9 kilometers depth and possibly much deeper than that. So sorry, next slide, please, Maddie. So what it looked like when we got here and what it looks like today. Nothing much going on. Was tumbleweeds blowing around in the area. Markets were terrible. We got in 2014, optioned some ground, bought some ground, staked some ground, and ended up making this wonderful discovery at Amorusko in 2017, which had the stock trading 100 times off of its bottom, had Kinross investing at $230 a share, Goldcorp buying 5% of the company in the market at $280 a share, and still, I think, a huge opportunity for the company. In the meantime, we've had a couple internal issues in the company that we sorted out over the years, the change of CEO. But along the way, this fantastic Ikkari discovery was made by our neighbor Rupert Resources, reckoned by many to be the best undeveloped open pit project in the world right now, and located right on the border of our joint venture with B2 Gold, and then subsequently right next to our Helmi discovery with B2 Gold. Next slide, please. Next. So Ikkari is a beautiful high-yield discovery in every way. It was only 36,000 meters of drilling before they could produce an inferred resource of 4 million ounces. That's probably only 12 or 13 million dollars Canadian spent, and in only 18 months. So quick return on time spent, quick return on meters drilled, and fantastic return on dollars invested. Of course, it wasn't an overnight success. Rupert had been toiling for years doing basic till samples and geophysics, much like the programs we are currently running on Amorisco. And they finally, after many years, did manage to drill into this thing. But from the moment that they discovered it, it developed quite quickly. And the same can be true of our Helmi discovery, which is immediately adjacent and across the border. You'll notice not much going on in between. We suspect these will end up being the same mineral showing, and whether it's there's an interruption between the shoots or not, we don't know. But of course, it's not in the interest of Rupert nor in B2 to drill right on that border. But it's probably not a coincidence that you're seeing all those drill intercepts, positive drill intercepts on our side of the line, as close as we could drill. Now, the fantastic drill intercepts at Ikkari are, let's say, 150 meters of 3 grams. We are hitting 50 to 70 meters of 1.5 grams. The resource for Rupert is 4 million ounces at 2.5 grams. And I think that if we tried to strike a resource with the limited drilling we've done now, you'd be looking at something closer to 1.5 grams. So it's half as wide and 1 gram less at the moment. But it is almost 3 times the footprint. The Ikkari mineralization occurs in only 600 meters of strike, and we're hitting gold all the way out for 2 kilometers so far on the Helmi trend. We feel quite confident that this domain boundary that hosts both Ikkari and Helmi will be fertile for other gold shoots or other gold occurrences, and that's because 7 kilometers away we have the historical Kudavoma occurrence, which is why we bought the property. And that has 600 gram meter intervals. It was of no real interest to B2 as they didn't see 3 million ounces there. But I think their view on that has changed now. It's definitely a shoot along the way, and I think it'll get further attention this year. So I think it's time to talk about the rocks at a deeper level now, and I'll just hand things off to Matty Talika and let him take things from here.
All right. Thank you, David, and good day to everyone. And greetings from Sodankylä here. We are here above Arctic Circle, but there's no snow certainly anymore, and we have the bright nights with us for the next few months. And it's tremendously active exploration ongoing here within the Kittilä, within the Greenstone Belt here at the moment. And as Dave pointed out, we are seeing a growing number of gold occurrences. We are seeing a growing footprint of gold occurrences happening now, or what has been discovered over the past, let's say, 5 years. And that is very, very unique situation to be in with. And as Dave pointed out, we have extremely large land package covering 80 kilometers, 70 kilometers of this crustal scale structure that seems to be the key feature and the key controlling feature for the gold mineralizing event. And that is one part of this big structure, what we see here, all the way from Ikkari to Helmi to Kutuvoma, and this is only 7 kilometers of this 70 kilometer package. Also, I'd like to point out how quickly things are developing here. So Ikkari was initially discovered in May 2020. In 18 months, they were able to do this fantastic 4 million ounce resource with 36,000 meters of drilling. We followed up on our side of the property with B2 Gold. We have in joint venture property there, as soon as possible. So we started to drill there in mid-2021, and we had the first very good intercepts there in late 2021. And since then, we have been exploring this area actively. We have already defined a very large footprint along the Helmi area, but also, as Dave mentioned, now we are stepping out further, kilometer step outs towards Kutuvuoma, and we have also found new gold mineralized zones there as well. If we put together the footprint of Ikkari and Helmi now together, this is the scale of Malarctic on plan view. However, here we have better grades, so that's the scale of the opportunity. What we have only this small part of this big structure we are following here. Now, a little bit about the geology. So we are an orogenic geologic setting. We have greenstone belts, very typical structural features, alteration features, and mineralizing features that are very typical for orogenic gold deposits. Ikkari, as Dave mentioned, they're beautiful, consistent zones of mineralization, and we have the same style, same host rock, same type of alteration also on our side at the Helmi, and also 7 kilometers further away to Kutuvuoma. So we are seeing very prospective stratigraphic package where we have extensive mineralized zones. And that is the beauty with these mafic, ultramafic hosted gold mineralizations, that they tend to be very continuous. Recent drill holes at Helmi, we just released a couple weeks ago, last week actually, we tested the depth extension of one of the main ore shoots there. So that goes at least 500 meter vertical and 700 meters down plunge. So that is the scale we are looking at. That's probably one of the many ore shoots that we have along this system. So this is really powerful system. We have been actively drilling here since the discovery in late 2021. We had a very active winter drilling program. We drilled at Helmi. We drilled here along this Kutuvuoma trend. We just released a few results from there as well, including this new discovery here, 2.6 kilometers from Helmi here at the center. And we also released information on another discovery, which is 30 kilometers away, all the way here in the western part of the geologic property package called Sainerma. That's 23 kilometers south from the Kittilä mine. And this is a very large structural system here as well, with similar geologic setting that at Helmi. And this was the first, proper pass of drill testing, and we got some really intriguing results from there. But this all shows how prospective this whole area is. And then we are literally seeing the first phase of systematic gold exploration in this area. Now, the other thing I'd like to point out here is that all these big structures, they fortunately extend into our fully owned properties as well. And let's jump to Risti property. And this was the initial story with Aurion when Mike and the prospecting team came into Finland in 2014-15. Mike had a fantastic geological idea, looking at these big structures, looking at the something that was neglected in the past, and they did fantastic work. They found thousands of boulders, thousands of quartz veins, thousands of boulders of quartz veins with visible gold, and that led to the fantastic Amursko discovery. There are 1,200 boulder samples averaging 25 grams per ton gold, and it took a few tries to find one of the source areas for these boulders. It is Amursko main area here. You can see here Eddie and the team, and this fantastic distribution of nuggety gold here on the surface. That happened in 2018 and included this super insert of almost 800 grams per ton gold over 2.9 meters. 2019, Amursko Northwest area was discovered, another significant gold mineralizing system there as well. And between this 1 kilometer gap, we have another gold mineralized zone here as well. This is just showing the extent of drilling and the mineralization so far. Amursko is a kilometer along strike. We have lots of high-grade samples. Actually, 31% of the holes have intersected more than 10 grams per ton gold. And so this is a big system. It's open along strike. It's open with depth, and we will come back here at some point when we think is the prudent thing to do. And I think this will grow. However, this is a quartz vein type of system. That means that it's a geometry, it's irregular, it's a nuggety gold, and so this type of mineralizing systems, they require lots of drilling. This is not going to be 36,000 meters of drilling for 4 million ounces. This is more like a newfound gold type of thing where you need to drill a lot. You need to have a very tight spacing for the drill holes in order to get together the mineralized system in a proper way. We made a bold, we considered our options 2 years ago. There was Ikkari discovery, there was the Helmi discovery. We saw the Kutuvuoma potential there, and we chose to stay away from this discovery for a little while. And the reason for that was that these major new discoveries, they were within the mafic and ultramafic rocks. I mentioned that those type of mineralization tend to be continuous. They are very efficient when you get into one of those, and we simply didn't want to lose the opportunity to find such a deposit, such an occurrence within our fully enriched property. We started a very systematic regional program with geophysics, with base of tail sampling. We did that in a diligent way for a couple of years, and then we started to generate good drill targets that we thought that were worth the scout holes. Why we chose to do geophysics and base of till? Those two methods have led to the discovery of 99% of deposits within this greenstone belt. That includes Sakatti, the major base metal PG discovery, also Agnico Eagles, Kittilä mine, Ikkari, and so on. We don't have any outcrops on those mafic and ultramafic domains. So all those things that we can find on surface are these quartz veins, and they are related to the structure as well. But also on the other side of the structure, we have the mafic and ultramafics, and previously we didn't test that opportunity for us. Now, when you put these maps together, you see that we have big structures, we have gold in sediments, and now we're actually starting to see that we have gold on the mafic side as well. One of the key areas that we have focused during the past 6 months is this Kaares area here on the south. So again, we are along this big structural feature. We are within the mafic and ultramafic rocks, and we had some historic help for this particular area. There was a base metal exploration here in the 80s and 90s. Geological survey drilled here over 100 holes, but all those holes were very, very shallow. Only 70 meters average length. And they actually found quite a bit of gold. So we had something to work on here and put this in the geological context. Another interesting feature, what we identified when we relocked everything, we relocked lots of drill holes, we reviewed the geological information, was that most of these historic holes, they were drilled in north-south orientation. And what we have learned from Helmi, Kutuvuoma, also from Ikkari, that typically in this type of orogenic system, you just don't have one structure, but you tend to have 2 or 3 structural orientation that may control the gold-bearing system. In this case, we thought that, okay, we may have also a north-south trending structural feature in addition to this major east-west. So we chose to drill a few holes to test, and this happened just before Christmas last year, to drill a couple of holes in different orientation. You can see we drilled from northeast towards southwest, and we started to hit some really beautiful sheared brecciated rock, completely altered mafic, ultramafic rocks with that carried consistent gold grades. The best intercept here we had fairly close to surface. We are only 96 meter downhole length, so we have 2.4 grams per ton gold over 56 meters. If you want to look at the hole, the complete hole here, that would be 175 meters, almost a gram. All this in a beautifully altered rocks that where the mineralization style resemble what we see at Helmi, and as I mentioned, Helmi looks exactly like Ikkari. So now we got in the system that we were really after. And as we speak, obviously following up these good results we got early this year, we wanted to follow up on those. However, on the joint venture, we had a number of swamp targets on the swampy area, so we chose to drill those together with B2 Gold. We had our drill rigs working on the joint venture, very busy winter season. We drilled 8,000 meters there. We still have results coming pending for 5,000 meters of drilling from the joint venture, B2 Gold joint venture. Now that drilling program has been completed, and now we are drilling here along the Kares area. So we're planning to test the extent of this mineralized system. You see the kilometer scale here. There's no historic work here, and we think that this whole package is prospective for gold. So we will be doing quite a bit of work here within the Kares area, but also testing these other splays, these second and third order structures. We only put a few scout holes here, and we are already getting gold mineralized zones there as well. So that's something that we are quite excited here in Sodankylä as we see the drill bits turning. And this is what gives us a bit of confidence as well, that the mineralization style is very similar what we see 10, 15 kilometers away, where there are significant gold mineralization in the making. Now, I just want to highlight again the big picture here. The red area here is our Risti property. The blue area is joint venture with B2 Gold. Combined, all this, we are looking at 70 kilometers. And you can see the number of stars. There are 20 new stars by Rupert and Aurion during the past 5 years. So this is how quickly we are seeing new things being discovered along the trend. And I don't think we are done in this region yet. So just to summarize what's going on here, so we have 5,000 meters of drill results pending from the B2 Gold joint venture from different target areas. At Risti, we are currently drilling at Kares area. We have also defined, as I mentioned, we have a number of scout drill target areas that we will try to test as many as we can over the next several months. And maybe today.
Great, Maddie. Since we have a little bit of time, let me see if I can share a different version of this presentation that we give. So this is, as everyone internally knows, I'm a stickler for looking at comparable data. And I think that it's not uncommon in our business for companies to produce discovery holes and for them to go unrecognized at the outset. And we had the good luck or bad luck, depending on how you look at it, of rushing only certain areas of the hole that we have since reported as 56 meters of 2.4 grams. And so we initially reported a highlight interval of only 6 meters to 17 grams. It was 100 gram meters. We had lots of sulfides in the hole, but we didn't rush the areas that were low on sulfides. We ended up with a much more continuous interval than we thought. The discovery hole for Ikari was 54 meters of 1.5 grams. I think we think the discovery hole for Helmi was 52 meters of 1.8 grams. So this was a pretty interesting hole, and it was more interesting than we thought it was when we reported it. And I think it remains an opportunity for our shareholders. We are looking at a very interesting area with Ikari-style rocks, and there is still a pretty big gap between the significance of that, let's say, 135 gram meter hole and our market cap. Quite a delta there. So we will know, I think, within a few months. Maddie is back drilling Karaselka now. We added capital at a price that we didn't love, but as I spoke to many of you privately, we're on the phone after our $6.5 million 55-cent capital raise. Even though we thought we had good things in store and our exploration programs, and I think we thought that perhaps there'd be a good environment for gold this year, we weren't quite willing to bet the company on that. So we added some capital, which, as I said, gets us into 2024, quite into 2024, or quite far into 2024, and also to give Maddie the freedom to go aggressively at this area. Gold often occurs in shoots, as you can see when you look at the 3Ds of Hickory and Helmy, and we want to be able to miss a couple of times here, even if we're in the middle of the system. So I think now is probably a time to keep your eye on what's going on in our 100% owned ground. Next slide, please. One of my favorite slides. I think even though things improved in a minor way after PDAC and the market opened for a short period of time, we're right back to just a crappy market. And it is difficult. We all have our own favorite stories, and we get excited about them, especially in good markets. But the duration of bull markets in venture world is often short and sharp, and there are often sharp counter moves within overall trends. I think most of us feel pretty good about where commodity prices are going now, and feel that as a sector, natural resources has been deeply underinvested, and that has a real profound implication for prices of all commodities going forward. I think gold is going to participate in that, but of course we have to deal with the continually shrinking pool of capital available to the sector, and I don't think that will last either. Next slide, please. Another slide we've shown in the past. We are trying to keep Aurion on the discovery curve and not get it into the development curve. Amarusco is a beautiful discovery, and I think that it will be significant, but we lost a cost of capital that was appropriate for going after that at the $700 a meter that we were drilling it for. And of course, the implications of the Hickory discovery suggested we should go into the mafics and ultramafics, the covered regions of Risti, and that has been a long process of doing basic till work, getting some initial results, and then going back and doing more basic till work in order to determine that those were real targets. But I think more discoveries will come, and I think they'll come hopefully on our ground. Next slide, please. And the next. And the next. Great. So just a reminder, bad things keep happening for producers. Missing quarters, running out of their high grade and getting into lower grades, and having grade reconciliations issues, mill fires. In the case of First Quantum, which is the big red bar here, having issues with Panama. There have been a couple since. This slide's a little bit old, but it's a really, really tough business. And the majors are continuing to have to replace, or the producers are continuing to need to replace their reserves, and all we're missing are a few catalysts, I think, for a more vibrant M&A market. The next slide, I think you've all seen before, which is that even though over the 6 years where there's been $1 billion of average market cap loss, next slide, please, $1 billion of average market cap loss in the industry, it isn't because there hasn't been an effort to refill those pipelines. There has equally been, on average, $1 billion of deals being done at every data point in order to refill. So I feel pretty good about where Aurion is positioned at the moment. Next slide, please. The area is probably one of the fastest developing areas in the world right now in terms of discovery. In terms of significant discoveries, Amarusco is the first, Hickory was the second, Helmy is the third, and I think there are more to come. It's in a great jurisdiction as compared to the rest of the world. I was looking at the chart of Bluestone the other day, a wonderful, wonderful discovery made many, many years ago by Simon Ridgway, then in Goldcorp, then in Bluestone Gold, and in the hands of the Lundin family, a multi-dollar stock. Guatemala politics went bad again. Now it's a 50-cent stock. despite tens of millions of dollars of investment by the Lundin Foundation in the area. Finland, by contrast, modern contract law, much more transparent permitting, mines being developed all around us, and it isn't therefore a coincidence that Kinross owns 9% of us, that Agnico owns 14% of Rupert, that we're in a joint venture with B2 Gold, and that there are other corporates constantly in discussion with us about what's going on in the area. So that, I think, is the value proposition, and I think we'll move to questions now.
Great. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Great presentation as always. So we are going to kick off the Q&A portion of the webinar now. So a reminder to everybody online that you can type your questions into the chat box at any time. And we already have a few questions here, guys. So I guess let's start here. Has Aurion ever considered working outside of Finland? You know, you just gave the reason why to work in Finland, but I imagine there'd be some opportunities elsewhere in the region, say in Sweden or other locales.
No, I think that we have enough on our hands, and Matty is born and bred in Finland. I think he knows the country as well as anyone operating at a high level in a junior company. And I don't want to downplay the Firefox guys. Alf has been in country for a long. Well, Alf, I guess, is the private company behind Firefox, Magnus Minerals, and Alf has a great knowledge of the country and has done great work with that data and generated a couple of public companies. But aside from him, I think that Matty probably has a real home advantage in this country. We are constantly, when we have time, looking for other prospects within Finland, and only where we think we can take them and quickly add value to them. Great example of that would be the vanadium play that I guess Mike originally staked with Matty's assistance. We got that into the hands of a Ross Beatty company. That company has evolved over the time to be a developer of multiple iron and vanadium properties. We probably spent $300,000 on that property. I think we got paid $500,000 cash for it, and we have stock and strategic resources now worth close to $3 million as a result of that. So that part of our business continues, but not outside the borders of Finland.
Okay, and obviously you are a gold company, but is there any potential or even desire to find other commodities on your property? You know, maybe nickel, copper, PGEs, for example. And you did mention vanadium. How might that fit?
Vanadium, I think, is that probably isn't a metal that we're targeting now. I'm going to let Matty chat about that, though. We've had some very intriguing copper intersections and some very intriguing PGE mineral intersections, and I do see Howie Flinker asking about those. So maybe, Matty, we can talk about what we're hitting as far as base metals and battery metals, and maybe the Satapora analogy.
All right. So let's start from this slide, and in great gold nickel camps, you quite often have those together or close to each other. Camp Baltic and Kalgoorlie is a great example of that. You have fantastic gold deposits right next to these major nickel deposits there as well. And this is something that we are starting to see here in Central Lapland as well. There is this major open pit Kevitsa mine by Boliden Nickel Copper PGEs. They've talked about the annual Sakatti discovery, that is a tier 1 discovery here. These are new discoveries, and they are along the same belt. Now, there's also a bit of history there. So in the 80s, there was a copper gold mine as well along the same trend. That was owned and operated by Outokumpu at that time. It was actually quite profitable with nice gold grades and decent copper grade as well. So along this big structure, we've had massive amount of hydrothermal fluids going through. There's also a magmatic system has been, so we have intrusion-related base metals, but we also have this really, really strong hydrothermal event here. And just recently, And because of we know that this is prospective for base metals, this is prospective for gold, we have kept our eyes open, of course, for all that stuff. And while we do the regional work, we do a full suite assay on the geochemical data sets, and of course that give us indication on the prospective for base metal as well. But also here, very close to Karaselga, we have just recently tested a few targets with something else than gold, and we have actually hit palladium platinum here quite a bit. So we have 30-40 meters of 0.3 grams per ton platinum and palladium. In addition here, along this Karaselga area, we have there up to 1 to 2% copper in few places as well. So it is part of this geologic setting that we have gold. It can be an atypical gold system in the way that you have copper kicking in there, you may have cobalt kicking in there. Then right next to it, we have now PGEs kicking in, and obviously we have these major nickel copper deposits right next to our doorstep, and who knows what we have within our ground as well. So yes, we will keep an eye on those, even though our focus is on gold.
Okay, guys, you have 100% owned projects, which sort of caught our eye about 4 or 5 years ago. And then the Helmi discovery sort of focused everybody onto the B2 Gold JV. But I think the winds have shifted a little bit. You're back to speaking about gold. You've got new discoveries on 100% owned ground. You've got new discoveries on JV ground. How do you split your attention between all these opportunities, and what do you want your shareholders or your to essentially focus on?
I think there's three value drivers in the company right now. And those drivers are as follows. There is a discovery on Helmi, or a discovery on our joint venture with B2 Gold, which we refer to as Helmi. My apologies. And that has quite a lot of strike length, and it, we think, connects up to the Kuduboma discovery made many years ago and historical on the property. And of course, it isn't clear to us that the same structure is the structure hosting Sinerma, but these are recent results by B2 Gold, about 30 meters of half a gram on average over 400 meters, pointing, however, to the fertility of the structure over many tens of kilometers. And we don't, if Ikari is the elephant in the region at the moment, and Helmi is a baby elephant, I suppose this is more elephant smoke. And of course, many kilometers in between of structure to be examined. Of course, those same structures move in parallel onto our 100% owned ground, where we have the original Amarusco discovery, the yet unsourced multi-thousand sample Notches discovery, and now Karaselka. So we were hoping to get into something coherent in drilling, David. We finally did, and so I think that the last driver of the three that I referred to, first driver is Helmi discovery, second driver is the discoveries on our own property, and then the third driver will be ultimately, I think, consolidation in the area. We don't know exactly how that will go, whether Rupert wants to put Ikari into development or not. We're unsure. It wouldn't be logical for them to do so. That is never the best path for a junior. But of course, whoever decides that they should own Rupert probably should own at least pieces of the adjacent properties, if not all of them. So we don't know how that will move forward or when the dominoes will start to tumble there. But projects, when they trade these days, are trading at excellent values. And I think the last really high value project trade would have been Windfall, where Goldfields came in and put $300 million of cash in to get 50% of it, and a bunch of other value on the table. and prior to that, I think Malartic. So this whole area we think is going to be valuable, and each piece I think could be separately valued, but I think the overall picture is how's it going to come together, and where will we be? What will our role and reward be in that?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, Kari the elephant, and I guess Helmi the baby elephant, you don't need to speak about similarities again, but Helmi does compare quite well to that 4.4 million ounce deposit next door, alteration, mineralization, host rocks. Helmi does have a bigger footprint, though. The grades are a bit lower, but drill spacing is sort of wide. Is there a chance to sort of focus down and narrow on some of those higher grade gold sheets at Helmi?
Yes. So when we started to drill in late 2021, we started to do step out drills, close to surface, and B2 Gold, they are the operator of the joint venture, and we support as much as we can. And we're actually sharing this facility here. I'm currently here in Sodankylä. So we started to drill close to surface always. That's where you want to start. If you can find something close to surface, you want to do that. And we have been stepping out there bit by bit and bit by bit. And almost in every hole, we have hit zones of gold mineralization or the right package that can host gold mineralization. So it's been expanding. We've only now so far put a couple of deeper holes to get a better understanding of the geometry of the system and see how extensive that could be. And we now have two holes, they are scissor holes that went to 500 meter vertical depth, and both of those holes confirm the geometry that the system extends at least to 0.5 kilometer vertical. We are now also seeing, when we have been stepping out, we've seen a number or several of these ore shoots. It's not a plain that is completely mineralized. It's typical orogenic system that you tend to have a plunge that is controlled. You have ore shoots controlled by folding, shearing, and then you have a good continuity along down plunge. So that's what we are now seeing at Helmi, that we seem to have several of these ore shoots. Current interpretation is that they are plunging towards west. We don't know how many of those are, but the indications are there that there are extensive, and the mineralized system is really extensive. So in a way, we've been too busy to drill test the kind of the lateral extensions rather than going too much deeper yet.
Yeah, so I think that's important to note here. Your exploration, it hasn't been really about delineation, adding ounces to Helmi. It's more about stepping out along this 8-kilometer trend on the JV property. You've got the new discovery 2.6 clicks away, essentially an effort to see how big the system is rather than quantifying the known ore shoots that you have. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that is, yeah.
And I think, David, one of the things that has us quite excited about what's going on at Karaselka is these long intervals, these 150 meter 3 gram intervals that you see routinely out of Ikkari are often driven by these brecciated areas that run to higher grades. And while we haven't seen much of that on Helmi yet, we did see that in Maddie's discovery hole at Karaselka. The 6 meters to 17 grams isn't a high-grade quartz vein or a couple of high-grade quartz veins. It is this lovely brecciated material that is where you can't really see the gold and really consistently disseminated. So we don't have it on Helmi, but right now we have it on Karaselka. And the question is, will we have it in economically significant quantities or volumes? And I think that's the question that we hope to answer in the next few months. And I'm front-running Conrad's question about when we'll see more results from Karaselka. I think that is in the coming months, but we are very, very excited about those holes, even though we have not, I think, done the best job promoting them.
No, those are quite exciting holes. In fact, nice grades, excellent widths. You've got 11 grams over 5 meters historically, 2.4 over 56 meters recently. Those rocks are similar to Helmi and Ikkari, but Is there a relationship between these two areas? You know, this prospect is much further south. It's on 100% owned ground.
I believe that there's a very close resemblance to those. And let me try to draw you something here. So lithology is what we have here in this Kares area. These, according to our interpretation, are exactly the same lithologies that host the gold mineralization at Kutuvuoma, Helmi, and Ikkari. And the reason for that is that between here, we've had these, opening structure that opened and into that basing sediment, the younger sediments were deposited. So initially, Kares-Selkan stratigraphy was lined up with the Helmi Ikkari system. So we have the same host rocks, we have the same type of alteration, we have the same type of mineralizing system there as well. So I couldn't tell the difference, when looking at rocks from Kares-Selkä and looking at the rocks at Helmi. To me they look very, 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 very similar.
Okay, so it really, at Risti, it looks like a couple changes have been really beneficial to you. You're starting to look at the volcanics rather than the sediments, and you've also started to employ more of that basic till sampling. Have these been really, I guess, the reasons why you're able to come up with some of these new discoveries?
Yeah, that is the approach, and unfortunately, we don't have many choices either. When everything is covered here. So we need to drill through the overburden in order to get the samples from the base of till or top of bedrock, and that's supported by the geophysical surveys. And these are the key methods that have led to discoveries along this belt. So that's what we keep doing. And you were right that there was a change. Let's say 2 years ago, we chose to stay away from Amurusko that we know that is already a gold occurrence and would very likely grow to be something of significance, but it would require lots of drilling, and so we took 2 years to do this systematic work, and that's not newsworthy. We didn't have any too exciting news releases from that, but now that it has been leading to this kind of moment that we can start to test these different targets we have generated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Of these.
I don't think we see a massive difference between, for instance, Keats at Newfound Gold at the moment and Amorusko. I think that there have been some fantastic results out of Amorusko. Quentin Hennig has seen both and refers to both of them as this episodal gold, which is happening higher up in the system where the gold is precipitating out because of space and a reduction in temperature and pressure. However, they are raising flow-through money there at $5+ a share, and that isn't available in Finland. But they're drilling flat ground, and we were drilling at $700 a meter with a helicopter. So Amorusko is a very meaningful discovery. If it isn't larger than it currently looks, it at least tells you that in these chemically it at least speaks to the endowment of the system, that there is all this high-grade gold, not just in drilling, but also lying around on surface for many, many kilometers between Amorusko notches and over to our Launi property. It just speaks to the amount of gold in solution that was driven through the system. And I think that when Bob Quartermain talks about Pretium, which is not the best example in the world because it's super nuggety, talks about looking at these super high-grade samples and seeing super saturated fluids having run through the area. It can't even be a question now that that's happened here, and it's just about where it finds the space and the chemistry to precipitate, because it's happened at Ikkari, it's happened at Helmi, it's happened in a totally different lithology at Amorusko, and I think, as I said, this bodes well for more to be found, and perhaps larger.
Mm-hmm. And I guess at Amorusko also, you've been sort of focusing on different rock types, and you've been cutting across different rock structures, opening up even further potential there. So is there a time that you think you might get back to Amorusko and take a look at that, or just too many things on your plate right now?
At the moment, we have so many. at the moment we have so many targets lined up, so I think we stick with that plan for now.
Yeah, I mean, I really think Reunion Gold is a great example. It is a beautiful discovery that Dave Fennell has on the go there. But they've hit 1 billion shares, and so it struggles to get above 50 cents a share. And this was, of course, the case with Walbridge Mining as well. And they're both, well-run companies by very experienced operators who got very interesting discoveries by the tail. And I think that we would like to find some proper balance between keeping torque and upside in the story for our shareholders and finding the best and most efficient things to explore for. And we're hopeful that Karaselka is that opportunity on our 100% owned ground at this point in time. And I think we'll have a much better idea in a couple of months whether that's the case or not. But in the meantime, Helmi continues to become more valuable. Rupert gets closer to the point where someone will take it on. And all of those things add value passively to the story. And we want to make sure that shareholders can get paid dollars, not pennies, when this thing finally sells.
Okay. So before we wrap it up, I do want one more question on the projects themselves. I guess this Sonerma discovery, it's located on JV ground about 30 kilometers away from Helmi. How does that fit into the story? How did you find that new target? And should we expect any new discoveries like that from you as well?
We have continued to do systematic regional work, both on the joint venture and on our fully owned properties. And that's the way to generate these targets, that we can do the scout drill testing and then hopefully we can make more of these discoveries. So it's amazing how underexplored this whole belt is. And I think that it's such a clear example that there are over 20 new discoveries during the past few years. Of course, most of these discoveries will remain small, but there are already a couple, one really big one and one quite big one, and they are growing as well. But it just shows that how many undiscovered opportunities, undiscovered mineralization there is lurking behind the teal cover here. So we are generating more targets, we are testing more targets, but we are also aiming to expand the mineralized footprint of the already identified gold-bearing systems.
Okay, great. So, David, I like your volatile exploration slide there. Sad that I spent most of my 10 years of gold exploration in the 1990s in the red, but it is what it is. So, but the chart you showed suggests we might be entering the green, or a bull run for gold stocks right now. And I guess this segues into your exit strategy for Aurion. You're on the radar of the majors. You've got the JV with Bay2 Gold. You've got Kinross owning 10%, Newmont almost 3%. Have you given much thought into how you walk away creating value for shareholders in the end? Because you've got such a tremendous pipeline of projects along this 80-kilometer corridor. Do you piecemeal the projects, or do you find the right price and sell the entire thing?
That is a very big question, David. Succinctly stated, I think we'll be interested to see how things develop in the area. Rupert is getting very close to having a pre-feasibility study out, and I think it's popularly thought to be for sale. And I guess that will be an interesting data point if and when it occurs. I would love to see this company exit in a single transaction with adequate value for all of its pieces. That would be simpler for everyone. However, we'll be patient, and if we have to crystallize one opportunity at a time, that's what we'll do. I think one of the greatest transactions of my time in these markets was Virginia, where Andre was able to sell the deposit, but keep some non-core properties and a royalty, which many years later sold for an excellent price for shareholders. And I think at the moment, you would contemplate whether or not there are two companies here and it's not that we want to extend anyone's employment, and certainly since I'm not employed by the companies and I'm merely a shareholder, I don't wish to extend the amount of time we spend on this, but we'll do what's right for shareholders to get everybody the best exit and to try to do win-win deals for whoever we hopefully one day do them with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd even point out Fission Uranium in the past days. It sold its deposit to Denison, spun out the exploration ground and the cash to itself, and then boom, made its bigger discovery, and then NextGen followed up with the discovery next door as well. So
I'd agree.
Yeah. So, okay, David and Maddie, Orion Resources, thank you for joining us today. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much, David.
Thank you, David. All the best.
Thank you, everybody else, for tuning in. Reminder that Red Cloud Securities will be back next Tuesday afternoon after the holiday. I will sit down with ePower Resources. That's May 23rd at 2 p.m. Eastern. So have a great day. Have a great long weekend, everyone.